speaker today who's not from DIKU, from the outside. And Jakob mentioned in the introduction to me that I worked in the IT Industry Association, and back in my student days, and in those days, Specialisterne, where Carsten is from, won the IT prize. And the IT prize is not kind of like a small prize; it's a big prize. It's actually a big stone formed as a chair. So I was the student who got the honor to carry this very big stone out in the car of the founder of Specialisterne, Torben Son. So I hope you get mic up, Carsten.
I'm trying not to. Is it on?
Yeah. Yes, and you are the CEO of Specialisterne, and before that you worked in Nordlys, Future Culture Denmark, and a number of other areas, and I hope you give a good introduction to Specialisterne. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you much for showing up. And I would say now to something completely different. And then again, maybe not, because I mean the last topic was, I guess, partly about sustainability, and the area that we are dealing in and working in is really all about creating a sustainable labor market. So first of all, I have to tell you guys that this is really a trip down memory lane for me. Back in the late 80s, I spent way too many Friday mornings in this room, or in this building, having had way too little sleep, trying to understand or comprehend the beauty of microeconomics. So my ambition for today is that this talk is going to make more sense to you than microeconomics did to me. Maybe I haven't set the standard too high, but still. I am the general manager of Specialisterne, and as Anna said, Specialisterne was founded back in the early 2000s by Torkild Sonne. He had a son who got diagnosed with autism, and really it was obvious to Torkild that his son had some really rare talents, but also very clear that he had some severe setbacks and some difficulties, especially in the social field, his capability to cooperate with his fellow mates. He was only a small child at the time. So Torkild founded Specialisterne on the fear of, or the question he asked himself was, will there ever be a job for my son? I mean, are we capable of creating a labor market that can comprehend and include people with rare skills and some obvious deficits that need to be attended to? So on that basis, he started Specialisterne, quit his day job, and immediately hired 10 autistic persons, and the day after sold them to TBC, which was our first client, and still is the biggest client that we've had ever since. So really is so the aim of Specialisterne today is to really create a more diverse labor market that should create the job opportunities for every talent and for every skill. So really trying to curb the labor market divide as it is today. I mean, it's really also very, very silly because there is so much talent out there, and everyone should have a chance to participate, and we need each one of you out there. So that's what we do. Very briefly, Specialisterne in Denmark, we have like two main focus areas. One is education. We have an education program for young adults, people from 17 to 25, who, due to their autism diagnosis, fail to be able to participate in regular school systems. So basically, this is a maturity project. It is a 3-year program providing young autistic talent with life skills that should hopefully enable them to enter some kind of education or some kind of meaningful job. So that's one part, and we are also running an academy, Specialisterne Academy, which I will tell you a little bit about in a short while. And the target group there is actually really people with either master's or bachelor's degree in the STEM area that also needs a little bit of help. I'll get back to that. The other thing we're doing is like specialists in the traditional, you could say. Like we currently have 30 consultants who all have Asperger's or ASD, autism spectrum disorder for short. They're all employed by us, and they're all working for Danish companies in various areas. Get back to that also. Currently, this spring we onboarded 11 consultants in Den Danske Bank alone. So they have overtaken TDC as our largest client right now. We're also doing recruiting programs for companies. Some of you might have seen the program series on DR, The Hidden Talents, where you might have met Louise from Novo Nordic, who obviously has some rare talents, but also was suffering in other areas that, like, well, basically we say that autistic persons, they have a different comfort zone than the neurotypicals. It's not necessarily smaller, it's just different. And some of the things that keep the autistic person in his or her comfort zone is totally freaking for me. So it's just different, basically. So the whole idea is to keep everyone in their comfort zone. And we are also doing neurodiversity management programs. I'll be talking mainly about the academy and the consulting bit for the rest of this session. I brought 20 slides. I have 20 minutes. I realize I have to finish in 15 in order to make room for questions. So I better speed up now. Anyway, just to let you know that everything was invented here in Denmark, in Ballerup. But now we are a global company. We have offices in 13 countries. Just the last one we opened was in Bangalore, or it's Bangalore over here. Basically all started up, somebody wanted to say, hey, I want to take this idea to some new countries, and we have done opened a lot of new countries together with SAP, whom we've been recruiting for many years. So we are a global organization. We don't have any office in Africa due to the lack of market maturity, basically. I mean, the conditions for autistic or neurodivergent talent differs from country to country. It's become a lot easier to be neurodivergent in Europe, and especially in Denmark. But for instance, in India, I mean, it's so stigmatized, so people don't go flagging, I'm autistic or I have an autistic child, because there are so many downsides to that. So it's a long and tiresome journey, but we will get there eventually. We have done recruiting in China. China suffers a little bit from the same thing. Basically, it is kind of, there's a lot of stigma related to autism still. And even if you just have to go to France. In France, the psychologists believe that autism is due to bad motherhood, basically. And even renowned psychologists claim that. So the mother did a poor job upbringing for the first couple of years, and that's how you get autism. So we have a long way to go. This is just to show that we have done a lot of business for a lot of companies. I'll skip that. So neurodiversity. What is neurodiversity? I mean, neurodiversity is a fact of life. It's nothing we can discuss. It's basically acknowledging the fact that all brains think differently. No two brains think the same. If all brains were thinking the same, we would probably have been extinct alongside with the dinosaurs. So diversity and neurodiversity is the prerequisite for developing our society. And I would bet you guys that none of the major breakthroughs for the last 100, 150 years has been made by a person who was not on the spectrum somehow. I think it's probably 89% true, because the rare skill to be able to really deep dive into a very, very specific area without caring whether other people like you or not. You are here for the sake of the matter. That is kind of autistic. And I would say that most neurotypicals fail to have that capacity, the ability to go on to be that persistent. It's what we call an autistic feature, anyhow. So we like to think of neurodiversity as a different thinking, basically, and acknowledging the fact that in order to lead everyone the same, you should treat them differently. And once you have understood that, it's much more easier to be around in the world. It should trigger your curiosity instead of your fear and your anxiety. Just think as the other person as people who might be thinking slightly different from yourselves. So figuring that out is what this is really all about. The thing is with the neurodivergent, that is basically the 15 to 20% of the population who is not in the middle of the normal distribution. So we would consider the neurotypicals. The rest might be neurodivergent. And what normally goes for neurodivergent persons is that they tend to have some really, really rare, like distinct peaks in their skill sets, but also quite often some dips. So the idea of having an inclusive, diverse labor market is to create strategies where you get the full benefit of the peaks and try to offset as many of the dips as possible. Easy peasy. Not. But I like to try and maybe simplify things a little bit, because I mean otherwise we will get nowhere here in life. So when we talk about the autism advantages, it's normally known for like their independent thinking, their excellent math and computer skills, great orientation to details, and very, very high level of perseverance. Those are the skill sets that we normally say this is the autism advantage. And it's known that 1/3 of the population has autistic features, and around 2% of the population is believed to be truly autistic. That means that they will get a diagnosis if they ask for it, which is really not that relevant in my world. But just acknowledging the fact that it's quite a few of us. And some of the researches that we made for Harvard Business Review found out that autistic person were 60% faster than their neurotypical peers. We recruited 250 persons for JP Morgan in New York, and they did a similar survey and came to the same conclusion. So it's really a matter of trying to exploit the benefits of onboarding autistic persons, or neurodivergent persons for that matter. So we're talking a lot more than 100 million people worldwide. So just covering the autistic, if you include people with the ADHD, you could triple that amount. If you include people with dyslexia, which is also considered a neurodivergent feature, I mean you can triple it again. What people with dyslexia have in common with people with ADHD is that they are quite often being quite extrovert, being quite creative, but can be lacking their ability to concentrate for a long time. So really the ADHD people or the dyslexic people also need a more like a closer management style, like breaking big tasks into smaller bits in order to get the full benefit of the task. And the weird thing is that even though most autistic persons are quite well educated and their IQ is considerably above normal, 85% are either unemployed or underemployed. Specialisterne, we get people with PhDs in mathematics, and they are delivering pizzas or delivering in newspapers, just because of the fact that they were not fitting into the traditional recruiting model. So the thing is, and what is wrong with the traditional recruiting model It's basically that the way we recruit people today is by cover letters and doing interviews, and basically what you test is people's ability to write a cover letter and do a job interview. A traditional interview is every autistic person's worst nightmare, because you cannot prepare as well as you would like to. You don't know who you're going to meet. You don't know where you're going to meet. So basically, they would normally do a fairly poor job, even because they know that this is not their comfort zone. And then when they meet their hiring manager, they would be asked questions like, "Where do you see yourself 5 years from now?" Basically, nowhere. And they would like, "Do you thrive in an environment in constant change? Do you like to be juggling with many balls at the same time, or are you really a team player?" They would say, "No." And basically, everybody would say no if they dared to, but then you would never get the job if you said, "No, I hate juggling with many balls. Please keep it one ball at a time." We know, like with Lionel Messi, right? You say, "Oh, you need to juggle with at least 3 balls here." You would never become the world's best football player. So this is what I call a traditional HR bullshit. That this is the main reason why autistic persons do not get a job. So what we do, we don't work with cover letters. We work with tests. And that's basically the only way to, instead of asking abstract questions, you get really abstract answers. Neurotypicals, we tend to improvise, elaborate. Okay, this is a weird question. He's probably want me to answer something like, "Where do I see myself job-wise 5 years later?" But if you really take the question literally, it does not make sense, and you could get any kind of answer. So what we say is basically, if you want to get the full benefit of autistic persons, you should stop focusing on the job profile and focus a lot more on the exact task you need solved, and that is what we do. Right now, these numbers have not been updated for a couple of months, but I think it's probably still quite true. There is a huge lack of a shortage in the labor market right now, and people are really screaming for candidates within the STEM areas. And at the same time, I would say that at least 2,000 to 3,000 persons could easily go in and fill in STEM roles in Denmark if we give them the chance. They're sitting at home in their basements playing World of Warcraft. Their moms and dads know they have the skills. Nobody else knows. So that's why we created the academy. What we do in the academy is we take people who have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or have shown interest and skills in IT but do not have a job. This is a crazy situation, but this is due to what we just talked about before. And we don't ask a diagnosis. We just ask, do you find it difficult to either get a job or keep a job? Do you not understand what your boss is telling you, or are you struggling to understand what your colleagues are telling you? I have to speed up. If you can recognize yourself in one of those criteria, then we can help you. And then instead of writing cover letters, we do upskilling. We test on a pattern recognition. We test on all kinds of metrics to find out what are you really good at. We have a great collaboration with Microsoft. We also have a great collaboration with IBM on the Skills Builds platform. So basically, we test. And then we start working with cases to make sure that we know exactly what people are good at. And then we also ask the questions that most employees do not ask. Are you sensitive to smells? Are you sensitive to noise? Some of those things that can actually be relevant in a recruiting situation, but that most people refrain from asking. And so far, 75% of all the candidates that we have run through our academy who were unemployed at the moment when they came to us, we have placed them in proper jobs, and not just flex jobs. We had sort of like high-paid, full-time jobs. 11 of them in Danske Bank just this year. We are talking Netcompany. We are talking about Ørsted, a lot of companies. So just the numbers. About almost soon 50 candidates have been through the academy, and 75% of them have actually gotten a job within the tech, data management, processing, quality assurance. Those we like regular, ordinary STEM areas. Mainly in the private sector, we are really struggling to get a foothold in the public sector, which is queer, which is really weird. Okay, the last bit is also, obviously, I spend a lot of time talking to companies, because, I mean, without the willingness of the companies, we get nowhere. So here we get, like, I mean, you get the inclusion by having the willingness to onboard or hire people who are different, but now that's where that gives you the diversity. But the inclusion bit is knowing how to manage well and doing well in your management. So that is also something we do. We work intensely with companies, telling them about good governance in management, and telling their colleagues what is it like to have neurodivergent colleagues. And they normally always find out that a few of their other colleagues are also actually neurodivergent. So and this is just some of the effects that the companies where we have actually managed working with neurodiversity, bringing in other types of colleagues, they say that like the team atmosphere went up, that internal communication rose by 40%. You know, motivations and performance went up by 40%. Just acknowledging the fact that in order to lead everyone differently, you should treat them, lead everyone the same, you should treat them differently. That was it for me. And so to tell you that, why not?
We've time for one small question. Tom?
So, since we represent universities, I wonder if you have any suggestions of how to make our education more suitable for neurodivergent people without making it less suitable for neuronormal people.
I mean, all research shows that the good practice that works for neurodivergent persons is actually working quite well for most other people. Basically, it's about cutting down on irony and sarcasm. That's a good place to start. And trying to really be clear in your communication. You should cross-test all your internal communication on an autistic person. If it makes sense to the autistic persons, it makes sense to everyone. That's what I'm saying. But we are having a dialogue about these matters. I'd very much like to go into a more detailed dialogue on how to do that.
Yes, thank you. One last question. Yeah.
I'll be here for the reception also. Please, if you are a student, want to know more about the academy, or if you are running a company, would like to know more about how to onboard autistic talent, please, or if you have colleagues, whatever, I'm here for you.
Thank you very much, Carsten.